Hi guys. So for today's Writing Wednesday video, I thought I would share with you guys some tips that I use to help me write as much as possible on a busy schedule. When I was in college and working multiple jobs and commuting back and forth from campus to my house, I had no time to write, and I know that's how a lot of people are right now, so finding the time to write can be extremely challenging. I definitely wish that I would have used some of these tips back then, so kind of not wasting your time anymore. I'm just gonna jump right into it. The first tip is to listen to author interviews, author lectures, and any kind of writing video or podcast. A lot of people have commutes to work or commutes to school, or they have time in the morning when they're getting ready that they could be listening to something, and obviously you can't be writing in those moments, but if you can listen to something that pertains to the topic that you're passionate about, in this case writing, that inspires you to want to write more, and it makes it so that when you do have the free time, you're more likely to spend it writing. Tip number 2 is to set goals and set realistic goals. A lot of times you will hear people say that if you're serious about writing, if you want writing to be a career, then you need to write every single day. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't write every day or that it's bad to write every day, because it's great, but people are busy. People have a lot of stuff going on, and life comes first. Be realistic with yourself, otherwise you're just gonna set yourself up for failure. It's the same when people are trying to lose weight and they go on these crazy diets and they tell themselves, I'm gonna work out every day and I'm gonna go jogging 5 miles, and they set these really high goals, and those aren't goals that you need to set from the start. Those are goals that you set when you've been doing it for a long time and you've figured out your own schedule. Set goals that work for you and that push you a little bit, but are goals you can attain, and then gradually make them even more difficult, make them more demanding, and you're gonna feel so much better about yourself, and you're going to set yourself up for success. Tip number 3, and kind of going along with the goals thing, is do not set page count goals. You can set page count goals if you'd like, but whenever I hear people talk about page count goals, it's kind of arbitrary, because you can choose whatever size font you want, you can choose different spacing options, so you can either kind of cheat by making the spacing really big, or you can make it way too hard on yourself because the font is tiny and it takes like 3,000 words to fill up one page. Not only that, but even if you follow a fairly standard font size and whatnot, you still aren't going to replicate your computer page size to a book size, so you can think like, I wrote 500 pages, but that really isn't 500 pages in a book. Instead, opt for time goals or word count goals. I'd say time goals are the best for if you're just trying to get into writing, or if you're just trying to be better at finding time to write, whereas word count goals are going to be more helpful if you are trying to replicate what is standard in your genre. So if you're trying to write YA contemporary, you can look up what's normal for the word count in a YA contemporary, and then you can match that to your book and figure out if you're overwriting or underwriting. Tip number 4 is to write when you can. What I mean by this is, a lot of times people feel like they have to have a huge time frame before they can actually sit and write. This isn't necessarily true. Even though it's helpful to have a large time frame to write, you can get yourself to write in 20 or 30 minutes. You just kind of have to force yourself to do it. Even if you can only get out a paragraph, that's a paragraph more than you would have written if you just decided 20 minutes wasn't enough. Number 5 is to count revising as writing. Now, I hesitate to say this because it's not writing, it's going through and fixing typos and rewording sentences and stuff. But a lot of times when you revise something, it allows your brain to get back into the mindset of writing. It allows you to figure out what happened in that particular chunk and what needs to happen next, which can then make it easier for you to write. Don't get caught in an endless cycle of revising though. Know that you're gonna have mistakes. There are certain things you need to just let go for now, maybe just highlight them and move on. But it's okay for now if you're just trying to get right back into writing and finding the time to do it. Tip number 6 is to go ahead and consider outlining as part of writing. For those of you that are pantsers, you can just skip this one because it doesn't apply to you anyway, but for those people out there that absolutely need to at least figure out a little bit ahead of time what they're going to be writing, go ahead and count that. That's part of the writing process for you. It's time saved later in editing. So it's getting your brain working, it's making you think about what you're going to write, and it makes it so that when you do sit down to write, you can do it in a more timely manner. Now, the same warning I gave before applies to this also. You can't get caught up in an endless cycle of outlining. You eventually have to go and sit and force yourself to write, but just know that a little bit of thinking ahead is okay. Tip number 7, and one of my favorite, is to meal prep. Any form of meal prep is helpful in general for opening up time for yourself, but if your goal is to make more time to write, then meal prep so that the time saved is spent writing. I highly recommend getting a slow cooker. They're honestly not that expensive at all, and a lot of times on my monthly favorite videos I share with you guys some recipes that I've been using in slow cookers. So they're so helpful, they're so easy, and it makes it so that you don't have to like make food for yourself every day. You just sit it in a pot for 8 hours and then you have like multiple meals throughout the week. Tip number 8, and another one that I think is so fun and so helpful, is to listen to music. I'm not necessarily saying you should listen to music while you write. That is up to the individual. Some people find it distracting, some people find it helpful. I'm referring to on those commutes, maybe when you aren't listening to writer lectures or something and you just want to throw in a soundtrack or listen to a symphony or a sonata or anything like that that generally doesn't have words. It is so useful. I honestly have had so many instances where I just feel like I sort of have writer's block and I just can't get into writing. And if I sit and listen to something, especially something that evokes the kinds of emotions that I'm wanting in the scene that I'm stuck on, it makes it so much easier. I can envision that scene, I can imagine the dialogue, I can imagine the action, the fighting, whatever the case may be. And then when I do find time to write, I can sit and get it out. Tip number 9 is to join writer groups, writer pages, anything writer related on social media. I did this last year during NaNoWriMo, which stands for National Novel Writing Month, and the goal of NaNoWriMo is to write 50,000 words in 1 month, and that month happens to be November, which is a very busy time for a lot of people. And what I did was I created a Facebook group for other people that were participating in NaNoWriMo, and it was so fun. A lot of times people would go online and say, hey, I have a half hour open, I'm gonna do a writing sprint, I'm just gonna write as much as possible in the next half hour, does anybody want to join? If you were available at that time, you could join, you could try to write, you could check in later, see how they did, and they could cheer you on and support you if you did or didn't make your writing sprint goal. But in general, it was just so nice to have a supportive group of people and a really nice, fun group of people all reaching for the same goal and all having a passion for what they were doing. And tip number 10 is to take advantage of your voice memos. It might make me seem like a crazy person, but there are a lot of times when I'm in my car and I'm trying to think through a scene, I'm trying to think through what the characters might say, how to make more realistic dialogue, and I'll talk to myself in my car. It seems really bizarre and it seems kind of stupid, but it's super helpful. However, it is not helpful if I don't actually kind of record some of that stuff. It doesn't have to just be dialogue, it could be any ideas that you have. If I don't sit and record it, I sometimes won't remember later, and that's so frustrating to have your mind consumed with these helpful thoughts and then to just lose it. Most phones nowadays have a voice memo button, so if you're driving, you're stuck in traffic, maybe you just don't want to listen to music, maybe you don't have any music on your phone, you don't want to be looking at your phone too much, if you just press that voice memos button, if you have a great idea, you can record it. This is obviously helpful later because if you've already worked out an entire scene, or if you've worked out a lot of the points in a dialogue or something, then it's already there for you. You just kind of have to copy it down. Anyway, there you go, guys. That is it for my 10 tips to write more on a busy schedule. As you can see, a lot of the times, it's not a matter of finding more time, it's finding the means to inspire yourself and to be more prepared when you do sit down to write. If any of you have any tips that you use that have been really helpful for you to write more on a busy schedule, please feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. If you guys liked the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Click the little bell icon so you get notified when I post new videos, and check out some of my videos right over here. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye.